Have you ever had that feeling, that lurch in your stomach when something you really rely on, something solid, just isn't there anymore?
Oh, absolutely. Like at work, maybe a big shift throws your whole routine off.
Exactly. Or, a personal challenge pops up out of nowhere, and suddenly you're questioning everything you thought was stable.
Yeah, that feeling like the ground's shifting under you when the way things are just disappears. It's really unsettling. Can be scary, frankly.
It really can. And it's such a universal thing, isn't it? We all kind of crave that predictability, that comfort zone.
We do. But the irony is, change is pretty much the only constant. Yet our first reaction is often, resistance or fear or just freezing up.
Right. But what we find again and again is that how we actually respond to the change, well, that's what really shapes our happiness, our success. It's not the change itself, usually.
It's the response. That's the bit we control. And it's a tough lesson sometimes.
Precisely. And that's exactly what we're digging into today. Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive. This is where we go through, a whole stack of sources, articles, research, our notes, and pull out the really important stuff for you.
That's right. And today we're taking a deep dive into a book that looks simple on the surface, but wow, it's got layers. It's Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson, MD.
You probably heard of it. It was huge. Companies like Apple, AT&T, IBM, tons of others really embrace it. It was known for being, fast, simple, and it works.
It really is quite something. And our mission here today, it isn't just to give you a quick summary. No, we want to really unpack the lessons, get under the hood of those metaphors. What do they really mean?
And most importantly, explore how you can actually apply these ideas in your life.
Yeah.
Day to day. Practical stuff you can use, whenever change shows up, wherever it shows up.
Yeah. Our goal is to pull out those key nuggets, the really useful bits that can help you navigate change maybe a bit more easily, more effectively. Maybe even find some good in it.
Dare we say exciting. At its heart, like you said, it's an allegory, simple story. The cheese, it's not cheese, obviously. It's a metaphor, right, for what you want in life.
Exactly. It could be that dream job or feeling financially secure. Maybe it's good health, physical or mental, or, a great relationship, or even just finding some inner peace, purpose.
Anything that makes you happy, fulfilled, what you're chasing.
And the maze, that's not just walls and corridors either. It represents, where you look for that cheese.
Right. Could be your company, your community, your family life, maybe just your whole life journey,
The book says it offers an amazing way to deal with change in your work and in your life. And it really is about more than just finding stuff. It's how we search, how we react when the thing we found vanishes.
And crucially, how we adapt, how we keep going, maybe even thrive when things are constantly shifting.
Let's dig into the background a bit, because there's a neat story behind how this simple parable came about. Spencer Johnson, the author, he's a big name in thought leadership, also known for The 1-Minute Manager, which he wrote with Kenneth Blanchard.
Right. And Blanchard actually wrote the foreword, the story behind the story. He reveals Johnson shared this cheese parable years ago, way before The 1-Minute Manager even happened.
Yeah, Blanchard heard it back then and apparently thought, wow, that's good. That's really helpful right now. It just stuck with him. Which tells you something, doesn't it? About how powerful simple truths can be. They cut through the complexity of, us, human behavior.
It resonated for so long, it almost had to be written down, shared widely. Its simplicity is definitely its power. It just clicks.
And the impact it had on people was often immediate, really tangible. Like, take Charlie Jones, the NBC sports broadcaster, famous guy, respected voice.
Yeah, you've been calling major events for years. Then boom, suddenly he's off the big gigs, like the Olympics main broadcast, shifted to, swimming and diving, then track and field. Less prestigious,
And his first reaction, totally understandable. Frustration, anger. Feeling underappreciated. Hey, this isn't fair. They move my cheese without asking.
And that anger started to seep into everything. His attitude, his work, probably his relationships too. He was stuck, basically. Like him in the story, just refusing to accept the new reality, getting bitter.
But then, and this is where it gets fascinating, someone shared Who Moved My Cheese with him, and it apparently just clicked. It flipped his whole perspective.
Really? How so?
He realized his own emotions, that anger, that feeling of entitlement, they were actually trapping him. preventing him from moving on, literally. So he started to shift his attitude. He began to adapt, to actually engage with the new assignments, found some energy in them.
And it worked.
It really did. People noticed the positive shift, new opportunities opened up, and eventually, get this, he ended up in the Pro Football Hall of Fame for his broadcasting. It basically saved his career, maybe more.
Wow. That's a powerful, real-world example. It shows that even when change feels totally unfair, your response, that's where your power is. You can stay stuck, or you can look for the new possibilities.
Exactly. It's a choice. And it's not just individuals either. Companies, big ones like the Ken Blanchard companies themselves, they use these ideas. They want employees who are adaptable, flexible.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
In today's business world, things change so fast. That old mindset of, this is how we've always done it, well, that's a recipe for disaster, isn't it?
Really is. It's not just helpful to adapt, it's essential for survival. Companies that can't change, they get left behind. They run out of cheese, basically.
So why do these simple stories, these parables, hit home so hard?
Good question. I think it's because they take really complex human stuff, our fears, our resistance, our potential, and they simplify it, make it accessible, relatable.
Like holding up a mirror.
Exactly. Especially when things feel chaotic, like that whitewater world idea. Being able to let go of negativity, ditch old beliefs that don't work, and see how change might actually help you. That's invaluable. And this little book does that through its story.
Okay, so the book itself uses a framing device, right? A reunion.
Yeah, high school reunion in Chicago. Old classmates catching up. Starts with reminiscing, but then the conversation shifts. People start talking about how life didn't quite turn out how they expected.
Angela kicks it off, saying something like, life sure turned out differently, and a lot has changed. That honesty kind of opens the door, doesn't it?
It does. Then Nathan talks about his family business changing. Carlos, the old football captain, admits he actually resisted change, which surprised people. Jessica pipes up about being afraid sometimes. It grounds the story immediately. These aren't abstract problems, they're real-life struggles we all face.
It makes it universal. And then Michael steps in. He's the one who shares the who moved my cheese story.
Right. He says it really helped him and others he knew understand and cope with changes at work and personally. He even mentions realizing that some changes actually benefited him and others in his company, even though they were resisted at first.
So it shows the lessons are practical. They have immediate benefits for navigating, well, life's bumps and turns.
Yeah.
Finding a better way to handle it all.
Okay, let's get into the story itself. Meet the characters. There are 4 of them, these imaginary characters driving the allegory.
2 mice, Sniff and Scurry.
And 2 little people, Hem and Haw. They're sort of human-like but small. The book says they represent the simple and the complex parts of ourselves. Doesn't matter your age, gender, race, whatever. We all have bits of these characters in us.
That's interesting. So you might recognize yourself in different characters at different times.
Absolutely. Depending on the situation, the specific change you're facing. The mice, Sniff and Scurry, they represent our simpler side. Instinctive, action-oriented. They don't get bogged down in analysis. They just do. Pure pragmatists.
So Sniff. His role is sniffing out change early, like an early warning system.
Precisely. He's attuned. He senses the subtle shifts. In real life, that's like paying attention, staying alert, not getting complacent, even when things seem fine. You're constantly, maybe subconsciously, smelling the cheese, checking if it's still fresh, still abundant, proactive vigilance.
And Scurry. He's the action guy.
Yeah. Once change is detected, Scurry scurries into action. He represents that need for quick, decisive movement. Not recklessness, but taking prompt, purposeful steps forward once you see the need. It's the opposite of overthinking or getting stuck in what if.
They use a simple trial and error method, the book says, which works well when things are moving fast.
Exactly. They don't have the complex brains, the beliefs and emotions that the little people have. Which brings us to Hem and Haw.
Right, the little people. They represent our more complex side, the thinking, feeling part.
Yeah, and that complexity, their intellect and emotions, it can be a double-edged sword when it comes to change. It allows for deeper understanding, but also it can make things way more challenging than for the mice.
Because of beliefs and emotions getting in the way.
Exactly. Take Hem. He's the one who denies and resists change. Flat out refuses sometimes. He often feels entitled, like, hey, this is my cheese, it shouldn't move.
We all know that feeling. Or know someone like that.
For sure. His resistance comes from fear of the unknown, maybe discomfort with disruption or just feeling wronged. He clings to the familiar even when it's obviously gone or going bad. He's trapped by his expectations of how things should be.
And he starts out like him.
He does. Starts with fear, resistance. But Ha is the one who learns to adapt in time. He represents that part of us that can reflect, learn from experience, and choose to move past resistance. He goes on a journey not just through the maze physically, but through his own internal landscape of fear and belief.
He's the one who shows the potential for growth.
Right. And it's important to remember, both Hem and Ha had gotten really comfortable back at Cheese Station C. They found this huge stash of cheese, life was good, routine was set.
Became complacent.
Totally. Complacent, maybe a bit arrogant. They stopped paying attention. They just assumed the cheese would always be there, didn't see the supply dwindling. That's a classic trap, isn't it? When things are good, we often stop looking for signs of change.
Okay, so the story really gets going when the cheese disappears.
Yes. The shock of no cheese at Station C. Every morning, the mice sniff and scurry. They were up early, running shoes on. They kept them tied together, ready to go, and dashed off to the station. Always alert.
But Hem and Ha.
Yeah.
They took their time, woke up later, ambled over. Very comfortable, very routine.
And then one morning, poof, no cheese, gone. Sniff and Scurry, who'd noticed it getting low, they weren't really surprised. They sniffed around, looked out into the maze, and just scurried off to find more. No drama. They were prepared.
But Hem and Ha, totally unprepared. What was their reaction?
Pure disbelief, anger, injustice. They yelled, "No cheese, no cheese, who moved my cheese?" They just couldn't accept it.
They thought it would come back.
Yeah, they hoped maybe if they waited or complained loud enough, it would reappear. So they stayed there, analyzing, getting depressed, feeling like victims. It mirrors so perfectly how we often react to sudden loss or big changes, doesn't it? That paralysis, that longing for the past.
It really does. Denial, anger, then getting stuck.
Exactly. They just stayed at the empty station, waiting, blaming. And Ha, especially, he really struggled internally. He felt that pull, that belief. The more important your cheese is to you, the more you want to hold on to it.
So the value of what you had makes it harder to let go.
Precisely, that emotional weight. It's a huge barrier to change.
So Ha is stuck there with him for a while. What changes for him?
Well, hunger starts to set in. Stress builds. He starts to realize, dimly at first, that just sitting there complaining isn't working. And eventually, he makes the decision, a really brave one, to go back out into the maze.
Leaving the familiar, even though it's bad, for the unknown takes courage.
Immense courage. And that's the turning point. As he's psyching himself up, dealing with his fear, he asks himself this incredibly powerful question. What would you do if you weren't afraid?
That's a question you can ask yourself too, isn't it? What fears are holding you back?
Absolutely. It cuts right through the paralysis. And his first actual step is small. He just chips a little hole in the wall to peek into the maze. Doesn't find cheese, but it's action. It breaks the inertia. That first small step.
And as he starts moving through the maze, which is scary for him, he starts having insights.
Yes, he starts learning. And he writes these lessons down on the walls for himself to remember, and for him, hoping maybe he'll follow eventually. This becomes the handwriting on the wall, the core lessons.
That's the first one.
One of the first reflects Sniff's approach. Smell the cheese often so you know when it is getting old.
Pay attention. Be proactive.
Exactly. Don't wait for a crisis. Notice the small changes before they become big problems. In your job, your relationships, your health, are you checking in? Noticing the subtle signs that things might be shifting, getting stale, cultivating vigilance.
Like in your career, are your skills still relevant? Is the industry changing? Are you keeping up?
Right. Ignoring those little shifts is how you get blindsided later.
Okay, what else does he write?
As he starts moving, even fearfully, he realizes, movement in a new direction helps you find new cheese.
Action over stagnation.
Yeah.
Even if you're not sure where you're going.
Yes. Even uncertain movement can lead to discovery. It creates energy. It opens up possibilities. So for you, it might mean trying a new strategy, looking for a new opportunity, or just shifting how you think about a problem. Don't wait for perfect clarity. Just start moving.
Movement creates clarity sometimes.
Often it does, and he discovers something else profound. When you move beyond your fear, you feel free.
The fear itself was the prison.
Largely, yes. He realizes the scary things he imagined in the maze were way worse than the actual experience of moving through it. Taking action brings this sense of liberation, lightness. The anticipation of change is often more paralyzing than the change itself.
That's huge. And what about visualization?
Yes, my favorite too. He writes, imagining myself enjoying new cheese even before I find it leads me to it.
So picturing success helps you get there.
It's more than just wishful thinking. It's a mental strategy. When you vividly imagine thriving in the new situation, enjoying that new cheese, it motivates you, builds confidence. It keeps you focused on the positive destination, not the difficult journey or the lost past. It channels your energy.
Okay, so Ha keeps going, learning these lessons.
Yeah.
Does he find new cheese?
He does. Eventually, fueled by these insights, he discovers Cheese Station N. And guess who's already there, happily munching away?
Sniff and Scurry.
You got it. They're thriving. And for Ha, seeing this is huge. Relief, validation, proof that adapting was the right move, that his courage paid off. And this is where the lessons really sink in, become part of his experience.
What other insights does he gain there?
He reflects and realizes, the quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you find new cheese.
Letting go is key. Holding on blocks progress.
Completely. It consumes energy, blinds you to possibilities. You have to make space mentally, emotionally for the new. Like clearing clutter.
And he challenges that idea of safety and staying put.
Yes. It is safer to search in the maze than remain in a cheeseless situation. Staying put when things are bad or gone seems safer, less risky. But inaction is often the biggest risk. Stagnation leads to decline. The risk of searching is actually the path to survival, and maybe even something better.
Makes sense. If the cheese is gone, staying put means starving.
Right. And he also understands old beliefs do not lead you to new cheese.
You have to question your assumptions.
Critically. His old beliefs about entitlement, about permanence, they held him back. Only by challenging and changing those beliefs could he change his behavior and find a new path. It means being willing to unlearn what used to work.
And seeing success reinforces the change.
Definitely. When you see that you can find and enjoy new cheese, you change course. Even small wins, glimpses of new possibilities, they build confidence. They make you more willing to keep adapting. It's a positive feedback loop. Courage leads to success. Success fuels more courage.
And he loops back to the beginning about paying attention.
He does. Noticing small changes early helps you adapt to the bigger changes that are to come. Back to Sniff's idea. Constant vigilance. Proactive monitoring, so you're ready, not just reacting when the big shift hits.
So Haas figured it out. What about him? Does he try to help him?
He does. He actually goes back to the empty Station C, tries to tell him about his success, invites him to come search. But he's still stuck, stubborn, afraid, refusing to budge. Ha realizes he can't force him.
You could lead a horse to water.
Exactly. So how does something compassionate but realistic? He leaves a trail of little bits of new cheese he found and makes sure the handwriting on the wall is clear, hoping Hem might see it, get curious, and start his own journey. He shares the knowledge but respects Hem's choice, plants the seeds.
Okay, so those lessons on the wall, they're really the core takeaway. Let's break them down as a blueprint for us, for you, the listener.
Absolutely. These aren't just story points, they're actionable principles. First, the big one. Change happens. They keep moving the cheese.
Accept it. It's inevitable. Not personal, just how things are.
Right. Fighting this basic truth is exhausting and pointless. Accepting it is the starting line.
So for you, it means being aware. What cheese is shifting in your life right now? Job market, relationships, health. Recognize the landscape is always changing. Clinging to yesterday doesn't work.
Building on that acceptance, anticipate change. Get ready for the cheese to move. Don't just wait to react. Be proactive. Prepare.
How do you do that?
Right. Could be learning new skills for your job. Building up some savings. Having open conversations in your relationships before things get bad. Regular health checkups. Thinking through what-if scenarios. It's not about being negative. It's about being prepared. Pragmatic.
Okay. Next, monitor change. Smell the cheese often so you know when it is getting old.
Continuous vigilance. Pay attention to the small signs, the subtle shifts. Don't ignore nagging doubts or minor issues. They're often signals of bigger things coming.
So you need to ask, is my job still fulfilling? Is my relationship healthy? Am I ignoring small health issues? What little changes might be precursors to something bigger? Requires honesty, doesn't it?
Brutal honesty sometimes, which leads to the need for speed. Adapt to change quickly. The quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you find new cheese.
Resistance just prolongs the pain. Letting go quickly opens doors.
Exactly. Clinging to the past, what was good, blocks you. You need to release it to find something new. It's like being in that sinking boat, let go of the old wreck to swim to safety.
So you got to ask, what old cheese am I holding on to? Old habits, outdated strategies, past resentments. Letting go, even when it's scary, creates space for the new.
Creates that internal space. Then comes change. Move with the cheese.
Don't fight the current. Learn to navigate it. Be flexible.
Right. It's not passive acceptance. It's active engagement with the new reality. Adjusting your sails when the wind shifts, seeing the new direction and choosing to move with it. That's resilience.
And then the mindset shift.
Yeah.
Enjoy change. Savor the adventure and enjoy the taste of new cheese.
Yes. Change doesn't have to be dreaded. It can be exciting. A journey of discovery, growth, often leading to better things than you imagined. Reframe the narrative.
So you can try shifting from dread to curiosity. Look for the positives, the opportunities, even in tough situations. What new flavors, experiences, skills, joys can you find by embracing it? Find the silver lining, then go for the gold.
And this isn't a one-off thing. Be ready to change quickly and enjoy it again and again. They keep moving the cheese.
Adaptability is a skill you keep practicing, like a muscle.
Exactly. It's continuous. Build that resilience, that proactive stance. So each time the cheese moves, you're more prepared, more confident, maybe even excited. It's less about survival, more about thriving.
And the final summary, the motto: move with the cheese and enjoy it.
That sums it up. Proactive, positive engagement with life's constant flow. Living in harmony with change, not fighting it.
So for you, it's about integrating this whole philosophy, seeing change not as an obstacle, but as a constant opportunity for growth, learning, and finding new ways to be fulfilled, always flowing, always discovering.
And the book really drives this home in that final section, the discussion among the classmates. It shows how this simple story clicks for different people in totally different situations. Makes it real.
Yeah, like Frank, who felt stuck at work.
Yeah.
He immediately saw himself as him resisting, complaining, realized he needed to be more flexible.
And you might recognize that hem inside yourself sometimes, right? That urge to dig in your heels, seeing it as the first step to changing it. Self-awareness.
And Jessica's insight was so powerful. Her old cheese wasn't work. It was her relationship, realizing it had mold on it.
Oof. That shows these principles apply to the really deep personal stuff too. Recognizing when even something intimate isn't working anymore and finding the courage to face that, that's tough cheese to let go of.
Then Corey, with his family business stuck in old ways, resisting digital change while the market moved on, the whole company was acting like him.
And you might see that in your workplace too, right? Outdated processes, resistance to new tech, systemic hemness, holding things back.
Richard realized he hated the daily grind, the constant problems at his job, even if he liked the core work. He needed to let go of that struggle, change his approach or the situation. It's about tackling those persistent frustrations.
And Michael, using visualization, imagining success in a new job actually helped him ace interviews and land the role, directly applying Ha's insight.
Laura, the business owner, saw the market shifting with low-price chains and online retail. She knew her megastore had to pivot fast. Strategic agility in action, moving with the industry's cheese.
And Angela, who started the whole conversation feeling surprised by life, ended up emphasizing the joy she found in embracing change, moving past fear. That emotional reward is huge. It's not just surviving, it's finding new happiness.
It all comes back to asking those key questions, doesn't it? Questions you can ask right now.
Like Angela's. What would you do if you weren't afraid? That's a big one. Or Nathan asking Carlos, why did you resist? Gets you thinking about your own barriers.
And Nathan pushing deeper. What does that tell us? What do you mean by deeper? That self-reflection is vital.
Because ultimately, the book suggests the biggest inhibitor to change lies within yourself. Your mindset, your beliefs, your fears. Nothing really changes until you change your response.
It puts the power back in your hands.
Exactly. And the way the friends shared the story, discussed it openly, that shows the ripple effect. Sharing these ideas can help whole teams, families, organizations adapt better together. Creates a common language.
So wrapping up our deep dive on Who Moved My Cheese, the core lessons are pretty clear, right? Change is constant. The cheese always moves.
Anticipate it. Monitor it. Be like Sniff. Let go of the old quickly. That's key to finding the new.
And embrace the adventure. Move with the cheese. That leads to freedom, growth, and ultimately success and fulfillment.
It's an ongoing dance.
So for you, listening now, here's something to chew on. If cheese is really that metaphor for what you want, health, career, relationships, piecing, what old cheese might you be clinging to right now? Maybe out of habit or fear?
And flip that around. What exciting new cheese station might be out there just waiting if you could find the courage to step out of your comfort zone and into the maze?
Maybe just pick one area of your life where change is happening or needs to happen, and try applying just one piece of that handwriting on the wall this week. Even a small step.
Move with the cheese. See what happens. Enjoy the journey.
Until next time, keep diving deep.